And away we go.
Are we back?
Hey, it looks that way.
Okay, this is our 4 o'clock Sunday, as opposed to when we are 4 o'clock Wednesday. 4 o'clock on Wednesdays and Sundays, Jimmy Doan Show. And this is Jimmy Doan here, along with
Councilor Curtis.
Councilor Curtis, right? So we have quite a bit to talk about today, I guess. I don't know how much of it, how interesting all of it is, but we'll certainly find out.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I have noticed real quick, you know, Halloween season is starting. Here we are 2 months before Halloween.
Yeah, today is September 2nd.
September 2nd, day before Labor Day.
2018.
2018, right. But I mean, I noticed that the Halloween costumes are now starting to be touted.
Well, sure, why?
So I said, well, what I'm waiting for, probably next week, the Christmas decorations will come out.
Well.
They usually do. Usually they start in September, the Christmas presents. You'll see it. I mean, I'm going to go to CVS here later and you'll see. We'll see what happens.
They've been moving everything closer and closer.
Well, you know what, they skip over Thanksgiving, of course.
Right.
So everybody does the Halloween thing, and of course Halloween
Thanksgiving's
ought to be
a chumpy
interesting this year.
You can't murk out for Thanksgiving really, like you can for Christmas and Halloween.
They, I don't know. They said it's a big deal on Halloween. I mean, Thanksgiving apparently is a fairly large family get-together type holiday here in the States. Okay, at any rate, the other thing I wanted to mention real quick was yesterday we had our first game day.
Yeah.
At the University of Florida. And of course, we park cars here on the Jimmy Doan lawn.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, even though we were playing some nondescript team, you know, kind of a what do you call it, a chum team, you know, you kind of chum the waters a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you know, we play with a lot with the second team and so forth. It's just to kind of get everybody up to speed for next week's game, which is Kentucky. But anyway, surprisingly, we had a full house in the parking.
Yes, we did.
Blown away. I mean, in fact, it was filled up an hour before game time. Mm-hmm. Couldn't get anybody else. And in the past, we've had people come in, you know, like 10 minutes before game time.
Well, you know what I think happened is one of our neighbors closed down their operation.
They did, but I don't know, and I don't know how many people accounted for that. I met a couple of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. So we'll see. Anyway, next week is going to be a big deal. Mm-hmm. And we did get 4 regulars that, you know, ponied up front. So, you know, so now all we have to do is we'll make money on those guys, even if they cancel all the rest of the games.
Well, that's all donations, of course. We park for free here.
That's right. All donations. Okay, let's see. Have you got anything in particular you want to talk about first?
Not really. It really just a sort of a rehashing of the past few days, a little bit more in depth or anything. Nothing from my perspective monumental has happened in the last few days, with 1 or 2 possible exceptions.
Okay, well, there's a local thing here that I'm going to talk about later, and that has to do with the halfpenny school tax for improvements on our school system. And I'm sure this is the kind of thing that happens all over, because school boards, as Mark Twain once said, God first invented idiots, and that was for practice, and then he invented...
How do you say that? That's so bad. Look, it's not the board's fault. It's not. I mean, they're doing what it's the structure. It's the superstructure of everything. I mean, their job is to come up with solutions for everybody, which is like impossible.
Right.
So, what do you expect them to come up with? It's going to be sort of kid glovey things, minor changes and stuff, and little things. I just don't think you can categorically just.
Oh, I can. I can, absolutely. I am one of those people who's actually gone down to the public meeting at the school board and watched them in action, and just, you know, I mean, what do you know? They're not that smart about stuff. You know, think about it. One of the things we have to mention about this, and then I'm going to get off on this. I mean, hey, let me go ahead and just get this out of the way. The deal is, you have to remember one thing, and that is that government in general is overhead of society. Any business, now think about it, any business, you have manufacturing, the stuff you turn out, and then you've got the overhead. That's the secretaries and the other people and the maintenance people, and these are people that actually are not actually involved in the manufacture and distribution, but they're the record keeper type people. And to the extent that administration, that's right. So the government is kind of the administration. And what happens with businesses that go out of business is their overhead gets to be too large. They have they end up with some kind of
Huge pensions.
yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Benefits for people who.
And then they have more and more departments, subheads, vice presidents, and so forth. Well, the government, of course, there's no restriction since the government is overhead. Now, so what we do, look, we work, we make profits. Whether you're in a business or alone, you make profits. You pay taxes, and the government basically is the overseer of all this stuff. Well, to the extent that the overhead gets huge, and in our case, it's $4 trillion, is the overhead of this society for the productive part of society.
Okay.
And so when you have something like that's what governments do. Well,
Admin costs 14.
admin costs. Well, the school board is kind of an administrator to the and they're not really accountable to anybody.
They're part of
believe
it.
it or not. And I've gone down there and talked to them. And what you do is when you have a public meeting.
Right. Well, we know they're not accountable because it's a government system.
Right. And so what they're saying, of course, is that the as we know, that's I've always said, but in the past, governments typically don't know the difference between maintenance and investment. They call everything they spend investment, which it's not, because they forget about the maintenance part of it. And
Well,
one of the things
I
that's
don't know if
happened on
it's
the
forgetting. That's advertisement. You know, when you have to, when you want to pass some spending, you're going to call it spending. You're going to call it an investment.
I know that, but that's to fool the rubes.
Right.
And so what they've done is the school tax project list has been released. And
Okay.
so it's the security improvements, modernizing and renovating cafeterias, classrooms, and media centers, and constructing new classrooms are some of the plans the Alachua County public school officials would like to use the new tax revenue on.
And school resource officers.
That's right, exactly right. What they said is, that's one of the things. What they said is a lot of these schools were built prior to the school shootings. And so now when they're going to upgrade the schools, they're going to, put in...
Make them bulletproof.
That's right. And new scanners.
Did you hear about the survival buckets?
No.
You didn't?
Survival buckets?
Yeah.
No, what's that?
So one school district decided to do something.
Okay.
And
Anything.
Well, you be the judge. They passed out very cleverly. There you go. They passed out buckets to each classroom.
You put it over your head?
No, no.
Don't shoot me in the face.
Everybody dives in.
Yeah.
No, it is. The bucket has a hammer, some rope, some duct tape, and
No.
Yeah, oh yeah. And what you're supposed to do is duct tape one another up. No, you're supposed to...
Over your
That's
mouth?
right, over your mouth. So nobody can say anything and alert the guy.
Right.
No, what you're supposed to do is, and door jams. You're supposed to use the hammer to bang the door jams under the door so they can't get in, and then use the hammer to break the glass so that you can get out of the window.
So they can get
So that you can so you can climb through the broken glass window, which I'm hopefully safety glass at this point, but probably not in some of these old schools.
Yeah, right. Well, that's old school. And then in this bucket, do they have Band-Aids and stuff for the glass cuts?
No, not that I know of.
Okay, what's the
it's
rope
just
for?
Survival. It's the rope, I guess, is to hang yourself when all that fails. Yeah, no, I don't know. Climb down from the second floor. I don't know. It's
yeah. You can see, like a second grader
Oh, yeah.
or a third grader rappelling down.
Woo! Yeah, you just jump right off there.
Yeah,
Go for it, Johnny. You first.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the thing about it is,
Hold on tight.
Instead of a fire drill, they're going to have an escape drill or
Right,
a terrorist
right,
drill or whatever it is.
Lost a couple in the drill.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Hey.
live ammo.
That's right. Yeah, right. We hired a bunch of actors to come in and play the part of terrorists.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they came in.
Everybody on the floor.
Yeah. Well, what do you do? Now, come on. They wouldn't do that. They use paint guns.
Right. Paintball.
Paintball. That's right. So the kids come out.
That would be great.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. So anyway, the 12-year tax is expected to. It's a half-penny tax, and this is one of the things I really like about the taxes. They call it a half-penny, right? It's supposed to raise $22 million a year over the 12-year time that it's supposed to last. But what I like is what I did one time when they said years ago they had a 1 penny tax.
Yeah, I know. You sent in your
I
penny.
sent my penny and I said, "Don't call me."
Why don't they just call it a millionth of a penny tax or something even more attractive?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's. Okay.
Not even a penny. And of course, what I would like to do is to make a little cartoon to show you what a half penny will buy you.
Oh, geez. Yeah. A sock in the mouth is what, I mean, a half penny? I mean, what?
Well, I don't know. It might, maybe the toe of a sock. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. So anyway, they're going to renovate, repair, replace, and expand the district's aging and overcrowded school buildings. Now, one thing that's interesting, you can tell that the school is overcrowded because of the number of temporary, watch this, buildings that we have at all of these schools. And I saw some new ones going up down the street here at the elementary school. It's not, as the superintendent said, it's not everything we wanted to do if we had unlimited funds.
Right.
Well, who wouldn't if we had unlimited funds?
That's
So
it.
during the past decade, $168 million in funding for local school facilities has been cut by state leaders. Now, one of the things that's interesting is the budget here in Alachua County is only about a third paid for by the local residents. And another third or so comes from the state, and then also from the feds. And of course, one of the things I've always said, if you take the Queen's shilling, you do the Queen's bidding. That is to say, if they're going to give you money, you're going to follow their rules, and that is this one. I'll get into that in just a minute. Renovations could include new furniture, technical infrastructure, lighting, flooring, painting, roofing and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. This is what I like. A majority of the school's air conditioners and roofs are past their useful life and failing regularly. I mean, how do you ever get to that point where you have leaky roofs and AC in Florida, okay, and leaky roofs and ACs that don't work?
I don't understand, and I can tell you it's even worse than that. As you probably have seen over the last couple of decades, I've seen the call go out for paper and pencils, and pens.
If you go up here to Publix or to the health club, they have, at the beginning of the school year, they have these big buckets where you're supposed to put stuff, new stuff, of course, in there for distribution to the schools, and stuff like paper and pencils and
Textbooks.
No textbooks. No, just it's stuff that they might want to, razor blades.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know. But I mean, they get everything. The school system. First of all school districts. I mean, public schools here have people that go out there 2 or 3 times a day to stop traffic, so that the kids can cross safely. And of course, the school buses are all immune to anything. They have have to stop for them, I mean, they've got everything going for them. And then they even have tags. You can buy a tag that says "Support our school system" or "We love kids" or something like that. So anyway, the district has been forced to use more than 300 portable classrooms to keep pace with growth. And of course, they're making the safety and security improvements. Obviously, because of the new shooting business, the shootings and of course, I don't think we've had any shootings here, have we, in the school system? We had
not since Parkland. I mean, that was just a couple months
ago. That was down there someplace. So that
was. Oh right, no. In our local area, no, there haven't been.
We had some students that were killed off campus. Remember that was 20 years ago. They have the memorial on the.
Oh right, yeah, of course. One of my classmates. Yeah, exactly. That was 30 years ago.
Okay. But anyway, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love. This is the other thing I love. Expert consultants. I always love the expert consultants. Who chooses the do they have super experts that choose the experts, or I mean, how do they get to be
double experts?
Recently inspected all schools to find out what kind of upgrades need to be made and what kind need to be made, and went ahead and estimated their cost. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the things I have noticed that most government estimates are low. And
what?
Cost overruns all the time, especially in the federal.
Underpriced, under budget?
Yeah, that's right.
Under time? What's the...
But here's the other thing. The state's Department of Education has guidelines and regulations that govern how school buildings can be renovated, and the architectural and educational consultants hired by the district are experts on those regulations. And of course, the regulations are not, regulations basically stop stuff. You can't do what you really want to do because it's got a regulation. One of the regulations we have is if you want to renovate a building, you have to bring it up to code. Some buildings you can't do that with. I mean, they were built 30, 40 years ago, and the bathroom has to be now, which is smallish, and nobody ever, but now it has to be brought up to code, handicap, whatever, or not handy. They don't call that anymore, do they? No, disadvantage. No, what do they use?
Challenge.
challenge. Well, maybe I forget what they use. So what's interesting also, in one of the things I says, school system officials have not prioritized the projects. So here's the deal. We're going to go vote on this thing in November. We don't know how. We have a list, and the list is very nebulous. You know, we're going to fix the AC, the roofs, the some school stuff and everything. But in what order? Anyway, I don't know. I don't have any idea. 22 million. We haven't decided what order we're going to do this stuff in. But what's going to happen is that it's going to be political decisions of some kind. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, and they're all going to be squeaking. All the principals are going to say, "My school is worse than yours. I'm terrible. My roof is falling down." And you sit there and you think that is that the way you get money is to beggar thy neighbor, as they say. You sit there and say,
in a
how
socialist system, that's what you do. The concept is, there's a limited pie.
You don't go in there and say,
it is if you take it from somebody else. That's sort of the Marxist foundation. They don't understand the multiplier effect.
Well, no, that's right. And of course, it's interesting. So you go in there and you get on your hands and knees and you say, "I'm so poor, my school is falling apart totally, the kids are not being served," and so forth. Mm-hmm. So anyways, they have a thing that comes out from the school board on what this is going to do. Good schools prepare Alachua County's young people to be productive and contributing members of our community. In the future, we'll rely on them to provide the vital services, quote, not quote, but in Jimmy Dona in parentheses, and money, for your retirement plan, products we use every day, and to come up with breakthroughs that will make our lives better. It's to our advantage to ensure students are ready for that challenge by investing in their schools. Yeah,
that's right.
Certainly no spending going on. Okay, another school. I'm done with that. Going along here. Here's another school-related item in Detroit. Detroit's city school district is shutting off all drinking water to all of its schools after test results found elevated levels of lead or copper in 16 of the 24 schools inspected. Now, what's great about this is, when you think about they've shut virtually all the water off to these schools. Showers, no. I'm sorry. Washing, no. Done. I mean, you've got an athletic team that would like to take a shower afterwards. No water. I mean, they have a main thing that they shut off. So they're bringing in bottled water. And I guess maybe you're supposed to bathe in that, I don't know. But in a statement Wednesday, Superintendent so-and-so of the Detroit Public Schools Community District said he had initiated water testing in all 106 school buildings in the spring to ensure the safety of student and employees. And had high levels of heavy metals. And the school district serves about 50,000 students. In May, VD said the district didn't make the right investments in facilities while it was under the control of the state-appointed emergency managers from 2009 to 2016, and he became superintendent in 2017. But what's interesting about this is the state guy comes in there, and they still had high, detrimental, lethal levels of copper and lead in the system, and from decaying pipes.
It's not uncommon. In fact, there's a story this weekend out of Polk County, Florida.
Really?
Indicating the exact same thing.
Really?
They've gone back and tested the water at schools that haven't been tested in several decades. Turns out at least a few have high levels of lead, unacceptably high. So this is
what's interesting is if you want to renovate a house this was painted with lead paint, you've got about a day to get all that paint out of there. I mean, they come in and you are under the gun.
You're not saying you're happy about the regulations on that, are you?
No, no. What I'm saying is that what's interesting to me is that they can't get the lead out of the water, but you damn sure if you want to do your own private thing, they come around and make sure you get the lead out of the wall.
Right
away. But, as far as the lead out of the water, we'll work on it during the next year. And of course, what happens is, what lead does, as you well know, they were talking about this might be one of the reasons for the fall of the Roman Empire was lead, affects your brain.
Right.
So you get dumb.
Right. Well, and that's why they shut it off at those schools.
Right.
You have
It's about time, of course. They finally did it. Who knows what damage has been done for the last decade or two?
It's
failing school sort. All right. So anyway, I just thought that when you look at school systems across the country, especially government-run school systems, and I'm a big proponent.
What we're really talking about here is almost like water systems, right? I mean, who is the school responsible for that because they put
No.
it's the cities
Yeah, it's the water system, right?
that put the system in there.
Yeah.
And so that's an argument. People talk all the time about the aspects of our society which are socialists that we accept and like.
Right.
And one of the examples that they often point to are the utilities.
Mm-hmm.
We want the utilities to be socialized, don't we? No. And the reason is exactly this kind of stuff. You got one government agency that's responsible for the water in this situation here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had multiple companies involved in the watering of this school, you can damn sure bet that they would have competed to offer benefits like lead-free and things like other common sense measures because they'd be in competition with their other.
Well, it's interesting.
providers.
We used to have here, when a subdivision went up, I mean, when I first came here to Gainesville, we had a subdivision or two that had their private water systems. They had a private well, and they had a private water system. Well, what happened was, I don't know what the testing was like or anything like that, but the city came by and basically said, you can't do that. We're taking over
It's
here.
unsafe.
It's unsafe because it's private. I remember there's one over here that serviced about 50 or 60 houses. They had a well and everything, but
Yeah, see, the problem with centralized control on any level is if they get it wrong, and humans inevitably get shit wrong because we're fallible. That's just one of our, unfortunately, faults is we're faulty. And so over time, given enough time, you're going to make a mistake. And so there's a natural correction that's built into the market. That is, you get weeded out as a provider if you
Right.
make too many mistakes.
Right.
Well, if you put one person in charge, like single payer health care or single school superintendent with an ombudsman overseeing everything, when that person makes the critical error, everybody goes down, and there's no alternatives at that point. You can't even bail out. You can't even.
well, one of the reasons is, remember now, government's got guns, and they can basically force you at some
I know.
point.
I'm just going over the general
no-
negativity.
Well, there's no
of having-
accountability with those guys. That's the other thing.
Well,
Nobody
that's
ever-
a separate issue
Okay, separate
entirely,
issue.
but
Okay.
it's just the amazing repercussions, the inescapable, all-consuming repercussions of having a single person in charge of anything.
Right. Or a single system that's in charge. For instance, Social
Right.
Security, which is on the verge.
Exactly.
It's getting
That's
ready
supposed
to
to be.
fail.
Now think about Social Security in the exact same light. This is supposed to be in charge of all of our retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I've got to imagine that they have put the smartest, best person.
I mean,
that they could-
mathematicians that know everything.
everything they could possibly find, okay? But you know what it is? It's a person. It's a human being, all right? And I don't care if this person also manages the biggest hedge fund in the world. It's Bill Gross or it's Mohammed, whatever the guy's name is. Okay, I don't care. Even if they manage $1 trillion hedge fund successfully right now, they might fail tomorrow. They can't see the future any better than the rest of us can.
Right.
And if they fail for all of us. So it's
Well, look
just
at Bernie
not fair.
Madoff.
Well, right. Well, but at least you had a choice. You didn't have to buy into
No, you
Enron.
didn't. But I mean, the people that did, of course, that when the one guy failed,
Everybody below.
Everybody below.
Well, that's the problem.
but that's the market.
Well, and think about it. Bernie Madoff's exactly the kind of guy that could be in charge of our Social Security right now.
True. That's exactly right.
So there's no accounting for.
Well, the other thing is, they have actuaries, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
that are in the Social Security, and I remember since the 70s, the actuaries have come and said, look, this is unsustainable, and we've made a bunch of corrections
Right.
since then.
Well, see,
but
and that's the argument against the unsustainability. Is there's always future corrections we could do. We could raise the age. We could.
yeah, good luck on that.
What? And that's going to happen. Before the thing collapses, they're going to raise the age.
You think so?
Yeah, because it's an easy sell to the.
No, it isn't.
Well, of course, the old people vote, and so.
In droves.
Yeah.
No,
and the
one
other
of the-
thing is means testing. But of course, you know who else votes? People with money.
Yeah.
So.
No,
but,
that gets down to being a political decision, and one of the ones that P.J.
Wow.
O'Rourke talked about one time was I think it was in 1983 in his book,
Parliament of Horrors.
Parliament of Horrors. Great book. If you ever get it, read that book. P.J. O'Rourke. But what he said was that in 1983, I think it was, they wanted to have a $10 copay for seniors on their health care. Mm-hmm. Woo! The shit hit the fan, and they couldn't fast enough get back into Congress and repeal that.
Right.
I mean, it was a nothing burger. But boy, the old people said,
$10.
we're not paying that. Yeah, hell yeah.
Hey! Well, okay. So I've gone off in the rabbit hole, but bring us back. Where were we at?
Okay. Well, I was getting ready to move on.
Okay.
Actually, this has to do with.
Did we wrap up the last thing?
What was and that you bring me back.
Sorry. All right. Well,
this is drinking water in the schools.
Right.
And the simple fact is
that's bad.
Yeah,
Students,
that's bad.
that's
Well,
bad.
I mean, here in Gainesville, for instance, we had for a long time we had an independent gas company, and I remember when I went to get gas heat for my pool, they came out there right away and everything and hitched it all. They're the nicest people in the world. Well, the Gainesville Utilities decided, well, we're going to buy, and they bought them out the shareholders made it like bandits. Mm-hmm. But now it's all under one roof, and it's.
Okay.
So
next item.
Next item. 2 funerals this week.
Yes.
2
This
funerals.
was the news of the week.
This
really.
is the news of the week. Al Sharpton absolutely shreds Donald Trump at Aretha Franklin's funeral.
Of course he does.
And
Excoriates.
And Americans were outraged Saturday after John McCain's funeral turned into a Trump bashing session.
How could they not expect each of those events to become pep
Totally
rallies?
political. I mean,
Yeah.
what is amazing is the question is, I mean, you had something to do, was it Al Sharpton or something? Who was it that went on like a damn near an hour tirade?
Okay, so, well, that's, to me, the most interesting thing that happened at either funeral. I expected the Trump bashing.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect it from the former presidents.
Right.
I mean, come on, y'all. It's a funeral. And especially, I can see it at McCain's funeral more than Aretha's because McCain is, of course, a political person.
Right.
So everybody there is political.
Right.
But, of course, everybody who participated in these funerals knew that these were not just funerals, these were national events.
That's right. Going to be televised, C-SPAN.
That's it.
That's
Opportunity City.
That's right.
So a huge audience. Aretha's funeral is 9 hours online. You can go.
Oh, is that right?
9 hours. You can stream it on YouTube. Okay.
Oh my God.
Now at about hour 7, Aretha's or a pastor closely associated with her family in some way came up and gave about a 50-minute speech.
Okay.
50.
Now, was this the pastor that touched what's her name?
No, I don't think so. This is a pastor emeritus at a church in Atlanta, Georgia, and he is old school Southern style preacher,
Okay.
fire and brimstone, and he said 3 things that really have stuck in the craw of the left, I think, and that is he said that families need or do better with a mother and a father. Kids, in particular, do better with 2 parents, one of them being one gender, the other one being the other gender,
Right.
and that's huge. That's number 1. Then he said, number 2, that basically he said Black lives don't matter until black people stop killing one another. And he pointed out the difference. Everybody goes after the cops for shooting black people when really the numbers are ridiculously bad in terms of lopsided. The number of black on black crime is
It's 10 times the other stuff.
Yeah, it is. And so that's unfortunate, but he pointed that out, and so they're not going to like that. And and I think, what was the third thing?
Third thing.
I don't know. I'll think of it in a minute. But it was definitely a fire and brimstone kind of get your act together type of speech.
Yeah.
And not what people wanted to hear.
No.
Certainly not a speech for any snowflakey type of person.
Right.
This guy was putting it on him in a very paternal way.
Well, Meghan McCain, of course, was crying, took the opportunity to slam President
She's
Trump's
the daughter.
Yes.
I mean, look, man, the daughter at her father's funeral. I don't care if she freaking balls into a friggin' ball or whatever. I mean, you can't. I can't expect them to do anything. Her in particular, the family, but the daughter. I mean, come on.
Well, it's interesting. Then former President Barack Obama followed McCain by piling on.
Yeah, to me, that's just like, whoa.
A memorial service of the late John McCain Saturday turned into a clear rebuke of President Donald Trump's divisive politics as his daughter, two former presidents, and political dignitaries used their diatribes to call for a return to civility. What's interesting, of course, is you know what the great picture is. They showed Trump out on the golf course during the.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. They had a picture. This is what he was doing during the funeral, McCain's funeral. Well, of course, he wasn't invited. Number one, they didn't get along. But I mean, this was the president goes golfing during this, and what's he supposed to do? Get on his hands and knees, and you know, and of course, then immediately they showed a picture of Barack Obama golfing during Scalia's funeral. So, and he'd been invited to that, didn't go. Trump was not invited. Also, guess who else was not invited to McCain's funeral?
Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin. I mean, you think she was his vice president candidate, for God's sakes. How, this is how bad things are. I just, you talk about divisive and everything. It's just,
yeah.
So, and of course, what happened was during this pounding of Trump, the audience, of course, erected a thunderous applause. I mean, you see that they're just, it's, a standing O for this kind of stuff. So, but I thought it was interesting that Sarah was not invited. Now, one of what's her name? What's her name? The singer. Aretha, yeah. The MSNBC host and civil rights advocate was one. This is Al Sharpton who spoke at this one. He spoke in front of a crowd filled with the late icon's family and friends, as well as celebrities and politicians. And he poked some of himself because he'd misspelled respect at one point. And now he says, "Now I want you all to help correct President Trump and teach him what it means to respect." But of course, Al Sharpton, the race baiter from hell. I think both Al and Jesse were there. And we're
look. If you got a 9-hour funeral, everybody gonna speak. And this, whoever is left in Aretha's family that obviously had no bones about making this the hugest production ever.
No, I know that. Well, what's interesting, there was a little thing today that came out that said, I don't know if this is exactly true. Okay, but apparently she has not made all that many provisions in her will.
Yeah, I don't think she has a will.
Okay, maybe she doesn't.
Right.
But you can bet. I mean, she's worth millions. I mean, 30 million or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you let the lawsuits begin.
Well,
I mean,
we'll see.
We'll see.
They may be like, okay, just split it up nicely.
Okay. Another thing. Okay, moving on.
Yep.
A recent case filed in federal court. This is one of those things that's interesting, as you as an attorney can talk about this. A recent case filed in federal court in which an American woman
she's guilty.
Yeah, had her iPhone seized and cracked by Customs and Border Protection in a New Jersey airport puts the whole new spin on things that we now need to worry about when we're leaving the country. It appears now that everyone's phones, despite a country of origin or cause, is subject to nonsensical seizure and certain. That's is obviously a one-sided opinion piece. Even if we refuse to give up our passwords, what happened was she came back and they said, we want to take a look at your phone. And she, why? They said, just we want to look at it. Mm-hmm. But why? I don't give us the password. No, I've got me. Now she's a Muslim woman, I think.
Yeah.
From New Jersey, local, but she's an American citizen.
Terrorist. No.
Yeah, right. Terrorist, right. So they wanted her phone, and so she said no. She says there's pictures of me in there without my hijab or whatever. My head
which
covering.
basically means she's naked.
Yeah, naked, right, as far as they're concerned. And I have some certain confidential communications with my attorney. So they took the phone from her and kept it for 4 months. She had to sue and everything, and I think she finally got it back. But no apologies, no nothing. No phone for. I can't imagine what would happen if I had no phone for 4 months.
Well,
I'd go get a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you do that the next day.
Anyway, that was the deal. But she was a Muslim woman, and of course, this is the profiling, I guess, or something. Automatic terrorist.
Well,
Who knows?
Probably was. So here's my reaction to that. The situation at the border is so bad from a law enforcement perspective that in the last few years, what they've done is they took a magic marker. Basically, you start at the border and you walk inland 100 miles. 100 miles. And now walk all the way around the United States. That is what they call the red zone now.
Right.
And if you're in that zone, you're subject to search and seizure by Border Patrol agents.
Interestingly, of course, all of Florida.
Correct.
If you drive down the center of Florida, you're in the red zone. Either
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yes.
So
I
and
believe
you can be
that's
stopped
true.
by any
Border
border
Patrol
agent if you're going to go. I've got my kids on my way to Disneyland. Stop! Halt! There,
Right.
you know.
Well, and here's the thing: if you happen to end up, and you see these stories all the time, if you happen to have a large sum of cash,
Oh yeah.
$5,000, $10,000, you just sold your house, your car, whatever it is, and you've got a cash because you're going to buy something, you're going to buy a motorcycle with cash or put it in the bank or whatever. If you get stopped and they see that, if they want to take it from you, basically, they're going to take it from you.
Yeah.
The scrutiny is just very high at this point. I wouldn't want to be in that zone, except I like Florida, so what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Well, I drove through the zone. I was coming back with my wife and sister-in-law from California, and we're driving through that zone in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, in Texas and Arizona, around that area, they'll divert 100% of the traffic.
Well, as I say, we were 50 miles from the border, whatever it was, and there's a permanent station up there, and they want to know, was I an American citizen? Mm-hmm. And I went, "Si, senor." And my wife and her sister hid under the chair, saying, "We're going to jail. You can't do that." Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm dressed in a Hawaiian shirt, and the whole thing. But they got a laugh out of it. But my wife and sister-in-law were convinced we were going to Clapton Irons and go. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was funny.
Well, yeah, it's a sketchy area down there in terms of immigration. But yeah, your phones are just in 100% constant
It's
jeopardy.
interesting. Now you can apparently, you can. What does it take for them to search your car? How about if you have luggage? I don't think they're allowed to really open up your luggage, are they?
Well, it depends. Here's what it comes down to. So there's 2 areas or 3 areas of your car, basically.
Right.
There is the cab of your car.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm going to go with 4 areas of your car. There's the cab of your car. Mm-hmm. Then within that, there's what they call the grabbable area of your car.
Okay.
If you have a really big car, there may be some areas in the cab that are outside of your grabbable area. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes the entire cab is considered the grabbable area. That area is subject to search at almost all times. So, because you could have a weapon there. And this is all about officer safety.
Yeah.
So, what they can't search, the other 2 areas are your glove box that's locked and your trunk that's locked. If those things are locked, then you can't readily access a weapon if there is one in there. Uh-huh. So those areas are safe, and they can't go in those areas without extra cause or a warrant. So that's where you put your drugs, your guns, whatever it is that you put there. And that's not serious. But yeah, it is. That's where you would do that if you were going to break the law, but don't break the law. So those are the zones. Now, there's been a little bit of heightened respect for the car's privacy area recently.
Really?
Yeah. In the last 5 years or so, a Supreme Court case came out which gave the car at least some expectation of privacy. So there may be some further limits placed around searches of the car.
Well, if you step out of the car and lock it, and you step out and you're out on the outside, then what?
Yeah, well, then everything inside of your car is unreachable at this point.
Right.
So,
well, of course, what they do then is they bring the dogs.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you...
And of course, even if the dogs, bark their brains out and they find nothing, they have qualified immunity.
What? What do you mean qualified immunity? You mean
From you say it's an illegal search. What are you dumb dog who says there was drugs in here and they're not, and you found out there were none, and you had to know that.
no? If the dog says the drugs are in there, then that gives you probable cause to search.
I know that, but what I'm
Right.
saying is the dog was wrong.
Well, it made a
Sue
mistake.
the dog.
Yeah, talk to him about it.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, bark, 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 bark. You know.
That's right. That's right.
So anyway, that
Hey, that's assault of an officer.
yeah, boy, isn't that the truth? You know, I remember seeing one time where a dog had died or been. I think a dog had been shot or something by somebody. There must have been 1,000, 1,500 police people that showed up for the funeral of the dog. You know, just like any officer. Jeez, I mean, talk about the blue. Okay, got another thing. Got another thing here in no particular order. Russia has decided to get on the luxury automobile market. Yes, a new luxury sedan and limousine modeled after the state vehicles used by Russian President Vladimir Putin were unveiled at the Moscow Auto Show yesterday. Though the vehicles show striking similarities to other luxury cars. It's called the Aurus Sonat, a new luxury line of armored sedans and limousines. They only expect to sell about 150 vehicles the first year, and apparently it can go underwater. Of course, I don't know how you get out of the car at that point, but this is
Underwater?
That's what it says. You know, won't leak. I don't know. Maybe it. You know, like Mary Jo Kopechne, had enough air to last for about an hour, and what? So if you're underwater, you've got some time for them to get you.
Well,
out
this is like the Lotus in The Spy Who Loved Me. I mean, if it's.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, that's the underwater car that you want.
Right. Well, anyway, I don't know what this is, but they said they want to make it for sale abroad as a competitor to the Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and the Mercedes-Benz. Okay, because those are the cars today. That's what I said. Good luck. They expect, and well, here's what's interesting. They expect. Here's the goal is to sell 10,000 of these cars. Now, all the ones are not going to have all the accoutrements of that you have, like our president's car, bulletproof and all that stuff. But still, it's a luxury car. Now, if you look at it, if you Google this thing, it looks suspiciously like a slightly modified Bentley or something. I mean,
Right.
And
I was just gonna say, how many how many automotive engineers have recently disappeared from those other factories under suspicious circumstances?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting
Because that's the only way they're going to recreate that.
Right. Well, I mean, what's interesting to me about this is that it's powered by a hybrid petrol. I don't know what that is. V8, 568 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, which is right fast. 9-speed automatic transmission. So it's aimed to be purchased by the wealthiest Russians. Now, here's the thing. I don't know whether, as I say, good luck. The simple fact is that this Mercedes Maybach or whatever their limo, whatever their fancy limo is, and the Bentley and the Rolls-Royce are cachet items. I mean,
those people have been engineering the same item for 100 years.
Right.
And they know what the hell they're doing.
They do.
And they have, I guarantee you, just all kinds of special
Well, the last time
techniques and
Russia tried to
tools.
do a car was the Trabat.
Jeez, I don't even remember that.
Oh,
Which
that's
tells
why.
you- Yeah, exactly.
It was a fall apart on the floor. This is one you had to wait 2 years for it, and when you got it, it was a smoky, horrible.
Exploded
oh
upon.
God, I'll tell you, it was unbelievable. So anyway, now you're counting on the Russians to come up with this fancy car, and they're going to sell. Think about it. They're going to sell 150 vehicles the first year. I don't have an idea what the price is going to be. It's got to be $200,000 at least, I would think. So the oligarchs.
Goes underwater.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it can't be driving around underwater, I don't think. I think what happens is if it falls into water,
Okay.
it won't leak water.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm guessing.
Okay.
Watertight.
Got it.
So what's interesting to me, the Russian PR guy says consumers of such cars, you could say, they're tired of Rolls-Royce, Mercedes-Benz, and Maybachs.
yeah.
Right. I mean, what's interesting to me is, you don't find in Mexico, for instance, somebody trying to sell a Coca-Cola ripoff. Coca-Cola in Mexico is a status symbol. If you offer somebody, it's like here, if you offer them a fancy drink or something, Grand Marnier in the States here, but in Mexico, let's go have a Coke, and I mean that's the cachet, that's the status symbol.
So what's the comparison there?
Well, the comparison is Rolls-Royce and Mercedes have built up, Bentley have built up their reputation to such a point where that's it. I mean, and I would think that if you're going to buy one of these, whatever this thing is, this Sonat thing is called, I just wonder how many people are to be standing around thinking that you're just really a super person or something, as opposed to a Rolls-Royce.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Especially if they're only going to make 150 of them. I mean, I don't know how many Rolls Royces there are sold in Russia, but I'll bet you there's a hell of a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, is that a Bentley? It's Sonat.
Yeah, no, it's Sonat, right? That's exactly right. So anyway, what they did is they took some pictures of the interior of the Bentley and the Mercedes-Benz and the Sonat. And boy, you talk about click. We're going to copy this, Bob.
Right. Make this.
I mean, rip this.
Make this.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was interesting. All right, moving along here. Okay. Last week there was a tragic shooting at the Madden 19 tournament at a bar in Jacksonville, Florida. This was a gamers convention. 2 professional players were killed and 10 others were injured. Now, one of the victims who survived the attack has filed a lawsuit. And he's filed it against the Electronic Arts and the venue. And guess who he's hired? He has hired our famous attorneys here in Florida, Morgan & Morgan.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Personal injury law firm Morgan & Morgan, which makes it clear that this is the first lawsuit of many. These guys are going to, this attorney, I don't know how many attorneys, they got probably 100 or 200 attorneys. They're all over Florida. And so anyway, they're going to make their bones on this. I mean, if they didn't make any money before,
Well, and you saw the sort of legal hook that they have, right?
Which is?
So, when they built the venue,
right,
where this took place,
yeah,
they basically didn't get the permit for the actual room in which they put on the event.
Okay.
So they circumvented the permitting.
Okay.
And that in and of itself is going to give them just that's a home run ball in the opening salvo that they get to hit. Just
it says here the layout plan by creating an unpermitted game room area.
That's it, unpermitted. And they had games blocking some exits and stuff. Oh man, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, let me tell you something. Morgan & Morgan, they don't take tough cases.
No, right.
They don't take the tough ones.
Well, they certainly going to take. This is going to be, they're going to make
easy wrongful death cases. Oh man, that's
this is a personal injury, of course. This
and wrongful death.
He was shot twice in the back. This guy who's suing.
Oh, okay.
So it's personal injury.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, but the reason they say. Every one of those people who's injured is going to be on board.
Oh, no question.
And also people who were killed. 4 of them were killed, right?
Yeah, I guess. And
between 2 and 4.
Yeah, 2, I think. Yeah.
And the shooter as well. 2 plus the shooter or something.
So anyway, this the EA Electronic Arts has already canceled other Madden qualifier tournaments and has pledged to donate $1 million to the shooting victims. A drop in the
thanks.
We'll
start with that.
Yeah, we'll start with that. That's
right. That'll pay our
that'll pay our copying costs.
That's it. Exactly.
That'll pay for the paper in the copier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's for sure. So anyway, let's see. I'm moving along here. 2 things that are in California. A call from the head of the California Democratic Party to boycott In-N-Out Burger over its $25,000 donation to the GOP.
$25,000?
Yeah. Well, what happened is they came out and they said, we donate to everybody. It's like what Trump used to do. He said,
right.
If you're going to have them pick, I don't care who they are. If you're going to have them pick up the phone, I'm giving them money.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, and so that's what they said. But anyway, what's happened is it's like totally backfired. I mean, there are people that are lining up at the In-N-Out Burger to
Well, In-N-Out. Let me tell you something about In-N-Out Burger. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to open up a can here.
All right, good. This is what we do.
Well, I'm going to get flambeaued for this because, In-N-Out Burger in California is like a cult following.
Right.
In-N-Out Burger, I guess they allege that they use fresh meat and fresh, locally grown vegetables and things like that. All right, it still tastes like slop. I'm just telling you right now, that shit sucks. Okay, it's as bad as Johnny Burger. But go ahead, eat there if you want. But here's the thing. See, I'm going to take so much L for that, if that ever gets out. So
It's getting out.
well, yeah, I know. but the thing is the people. If you say something like that in California, mob city. I mean, Antifa shows up at your door next day,
Yeah.
and that's how the people are. They're defending In-N-Out Burger, no question about it. So
Well, they apparently, they said it's backfired.
wrong group to pick on.
Wrong group, right? Yeah, exactly right.
It's like picking on actors or something, and
Yeah, in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so they decided, that they made equal contributions and so forth. That was their thing that came out, but apparently nobody, or the Democrat guy that said that wanted them to boycott, he's in hot water now, as you would expect, because he's from California. Okay, another California item. This is really great. Earlier this summer, the FCC formally revoked net neutrality regulations. In a nutshell, this allows the cable and internet. This is written from the standpoint of people who love net neutrality. This allows cable and internet providers to prioritize what websites and content you access by slowing traffic, charging more for faster connections. That's without net neutrality. That is, net neutrality is supposed to tell you that they can't do that. They can't slow up, whatever that is, supposedly. The FCC chairman, Ajit Pai, who in case you forgot thinks you're a complete idiot, well of course he doesn't, has justified the repeal of net neutrality on a federal level, saying that it's merely taking the internet back to its early days. Well, they, sarcastically say, oh, you mean back to 1999. No. See, you have to understand, net neutrality was in business for only about 2 years. And so it's taken it back to what it was in 2014 or something like that. Big deal. It wasn't like the net wasn't expanding exponentially. All those years from 1995 up to then, for 2000, for 20 years that had been expanding. And I mean, a lot of us remember the 300 or the 1200 baud connection through AOL or Genie or something.
Sure.
And now,
Anybody who was around from 1995 remembers every few months the internet speed would double.
Right.
You would get a new modem,
Yep.
a new system would come out, and you would go, oh my God,
Now?
4800 baud.
Oh my
God, it's 9600.
Yeah.
And it just on and on and on. And so, but here's my question to you. So I pulled down the text of Senate Bill 822 in California. It's only a few pages long.
Really? A bill only a few pages long?
Yep. I know. And here's the thing. So I'm obviously a trained statute reader.
Okay.
I'm an expert at that, as much as anybody can be. And I can't figure out what the heck they're trying to do.
Really?
They make no... they don't start out like a lot of federal statutes do with a statement, with a purpose statement, or any type of identification of the issues or anything like that. It's quite succinct, as I said. I mean, the whole thing is less than 10 pages long.
Okay.
Fewer than 10. So the issues that I have, there are two indecipherable terms that they don't define in the definition section of the bill.
And they are?
The last mile.
Okay.
And what that comes down to is there's something that's happening in the last mile that is what they're trying to prevent. That is the big deal, is the last mile. And so what's going on, it seems to be a limitation on internet service providers providing what they call edge services or additional services in that last mile that would interfere with the delivery speed in some way that they consider to be unreasonable. And it must be something specifically targeted, and I have to believe that if we were software engineers, we would be going, oh yeah, last mile, that means blah, 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 and you'd know exactly what it is. And I want to send a message to my IT guy to ask him what this is all about, because this is some sort of broad categorical denial of ability for these providers to affect that last mile with these edge services. And I'm not sure why the government feels like it's necessary to get involved. They cite the things they cited don't make any sense. They cited, for example, a problem that they claim to have with a bottleneck of internet service during a firefighting situation, where they claimed that Verizon clamped down on the firefighters' ability to communicate. And I cannot imagine that was intentional. And their proposition was that this bill would allow for a more quote-unquote meaningful punishment to be exhibited upon Verizon.
So let me get this straight. So the idea would be, I guess, under the net neutrality, is if you've got this fire and the fire people have to communicate, that basically you shut down everybody else.
It might be something like that.
Well, that's hardly net neutrality.
Well, exactly. It doesn't. I can't figure out.
Your Netflix suddenly goes dark.
Let me look. As we know, anytime there's a regulation involved, by definition, it's not neutral.
Right.
The whole concept of the regulation is we're going to favor one group and we're going to disfavor another group.
Right.
Okay, so it's not neutral, but I can't figure out who it is that they're trying to go against. I mean, it's the service providers in some way, but I'm not sure what these people have done to really raise the ire of these California legislators in this.
I don't know either. Because one of the things is here, I mean, you can pay extra for higher speed.
Well, that's part of the prohibition. That is something that you won't be able to do.
But I mean, I want that higher speed.
Well, and again, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm talking about something that has to do with the last mile. They can offer you those types of, I believe,
enhanced services.
Right. Not in the last mile, but without the definition of last mile, I don't know what the heck they're talking about there.
Yeah.
And so I'll have to do a little bit more research on
the last mile, I believe that the last mile refers to the actual cable from the hub to your house. That is to say, I think, I could be wrong on this, but I believe there's some kind of a distribution thing from Cox, for instance, out here somewhere that services this whole area. But it's like the telephone company. Every house has its own wire. So I'm guessing that, and of course one of the things that people don't quite understand is I'm not exactly calling it a monopoly position, but here most cable companies are regulated by local cities and counties, and they make them monopolies. That is to say, if Time Warner wanted to come in here, the city commission could say no, and yet Time Warner might say,
we only get Cox Cable here.
That's it. That's all. Now I think you can get
Direct TV, but
that's TV,
satellite
right. Stuff. But I mean, the fact is that Cox kind of has a lock on things, but if Time Warner or Comcast wanted to come in here, either pony up the money for, and of course what they're going to say is that they're going to say this is the, you need to make sure that Cox makes enough money to service everybody, that they should, for them to be running wires all over town, parallel wires, would be a waste. Well, no, if Time Warner or somebody thought it was worth it, they'd do it. I mean,
right. Well, actually, the university now is getting involved with the internet.
Oh, GRU is too.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They're doing fiber optics all over the place. Yeah.
So we'll see how that affects things.
Yeah, but of course, GRU is a government entity, which it'll be interesting to see how they figure it out. So anyway, net neutrality is a chimera. It's a false something or another. I don't see it.
I'm highly suspicious of it.
Well, like you say, it's not neutral.
No, well, it can't be.
It can't be, because right away, once you have a law in place claiming that it's neutral, by its very nature of being a law, it's not.
Right.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have to have a law.
And I'm concerned that they feel that they need to invent some sort of new prohibition that isn't already in place by the nature of just general contract law and general criminal law.
Jerry Brown still has to sign it, and they said he would. All right, I got the last thing. My last thing that I've got here We're right at the end of the thing. A senior Saudi official today appeared to confirm local media reports that the kingdom is considering digging a canal to separate the Qatari peninsula from the mainland and turn it into an island. This is Qatar, I guess is what people call it, and so it's attached to the mainland right now. But Saudi Arabia has, and some of the Emirates and some other people like that are boycotting and not allowing the stuff to Qatar come over their land. Mm-hmm. And so right now, I guess that, and I don't know if they've boycotted the shipping lanes or not, but basically most of the stuff to Qatar used to come over through Saudi Arabia and so forth. So now what they're going to do is they're going to make it an island by putting some kind of a canal in there, and but Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Egypt cut diplomatic trade and transport ties with Qatar in June 2017. So that was just a little over a year ago, accusing Qatar of supporting terrorism. Who are the terrorists here? No, I mean, you know, the Saudis are sitting there bombing school buses. I mean, in a sovereign country.
In Yemen, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
And it was Saudis that flew the planes into the World Trade Center.
Well, yeah. Look, I don't know enough about that particular area, that particular relationship to get into the politics of, I'm going to go with Qatar, and the reason I'm going to say Qatar is because it's spelled Q-U...
No U.
Okay, anyway, it starts with a Q. Okay, Q-A-T. So Qatar, that works for me because Qatar is spelled C-U-T-T-E-R.
I understand that.
And that describes somebody who uses a knife to cut somebody.
That's what they do.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So you spell it right, y'all, if you want it pronounced differently.
Okay, well,
one of my professors used to say you can spell your name or whatever it is any way you want in English. We're going to pronounce it the way you spell it.
Yeah. Actually, that's not strictly true because in English, especially, there are so many words that have the exact same O-U-G-H ending that are pronounced so different you can't imagine.
Well, my thought is everybody should just start pronouncing it the way that you want to, like that. So
yeah, okay. Then you're in for the 47 different sexes or
no. It's like, look, if your name is Sharday, it's got to be S-H-A-R-D-E or D-A-Y. Okay, it can't be S-A-D-E. Okay, you don't get an S-H sound out of an S. You can't have that. So. And I know it's in some places in the words. I'm just saying.
I'm thinking, what was a name that just occurred to me that it's an Irish name that's spelled all kind. Sean is one. Now S-E-A-N.
Yeah, you don't get Sean here for that. You get Scene.
No, you get Sean. No, people call it. I mean, I call people if it's S-E-A-N, I call them Sean.
Well, that's an exception.
Okay, that's good. All right, well, I'm done with this.
Yeah, let's see. I don't think I really have anything extra. Let me just check real quick.
Next week is Kentucky.
Yes, it is. Let's see. The only two things I'm going to say is we should keep an eye on two things that people are losing track of, or I don't think they see on the horizon or in the future. And one is Trump is now talking about antitrust issues when it's concerning Google, Apple, Facebook, Twitter.
Ooh, yeah.
And he's talking about regulation and censorship thereof. So thanks a lot, everybody who's pro censorship of Alex Jones. Now you're going to get Trump behind this movement. He's going to take the ball and run with it. We'll see who gets banned from what, or what regulations get involved.
Antitrust is the worst thing because it steps in at exactly the wrong time. Right. The market is in the process of correcting it.
Exactly. So, okay, there's that. And then the second thing is keep your eyeball on the debt and the deficit, because everybody has just turned a blind eye to this because we have a Republican in office right now. But the truth is he's spending more this year than Obama did in his last year. And it's a total abdication of anything in Republican
fiscal responsibility.
Yeah. And
gone.
So, and as you said, deficit spending is like cocaine money. Once it's out there, you're not stopping it. The
No.
flow is on, and ever since Bush spent the first 800 billion extra to save the banks, Obama ran with that ball. Now Trump's running with it, and it looks bad. Folks.
Yeah.
So
Well, the first, I forget what the first one. The first bailout was like 700 billion.
yeah, 800.
Was it, or was that the first one or the second one? I don't
The
know.
bank bailout was 800.
Okay.
They did like 3 right in a row.
Right, okay, that's what
Then
it
they
was.
did a huge $1 trillion infrastructure plan right after that, and then a secondary bailout.
Right.
But
So, so at any rate, the fact is that this year, it's going to be, the deficit this year is going to be about $1.5 trillion, which
yeah,
would be the largest,
1.6 or something.
whatever it's going to be. And so what we do is wait around until next year to see how big it's going to be next
Or no,
year.
0.6, I think it is.
What?
I think the deficit's only 0.6 trillion.
Really?
Not 1.6, yeah.
Okay, I thought he had an extra 1.5 trillion in spending. Maybe part of that was already accounted for, so to speak. But the simple fact is, what we're talking about is the difference between the monies that are collected, mostly with taxes, but also some other fines and stuff like that, and the actual spending.
Yeah, the government collects about 4 trillion, I think.
No, it doesn't collect anywhere near that.
3, maybe they collect 3.
Maybe 3.
And then they spend 4.6.
Right.
Okay, that's what it is.
So that's the deficit.
Yeah.
So that's that's it.
Well, anyway, check the numbers, but it's bad, and we'll keep an eye on it too.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you all.
Yeah.
Leave us a note, a message, like us on someplace, wherever we are, YouTube.
someplace.
And we'll be back here Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Yes. Yeah, we're live twice a week these days when the stream is working. I see that we're not working so well today, but it's going to go. I'm going to put up a nice copy here real soon. So we will be live, though, twice a week at 4 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays. So send us a message.
Something you might want to talk about.
Yeah.
We're there.
All right. So long.